The Hoover Education Board meeting is now called to order. If you would, please join me in a moment of silent prayer for our district and your loved ones. Thank you. If you would, please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Winter, would you call the roll to establish a quorum?
Yes. Deanna Bauman. Here. Craig Kelly.
Here.
Kermit Kendrick.
Here.
Amy Madonna.
Here.
Amy Tosney. Absent.
As Ms. Cosney is away on business tonight, sends her regrets. I'm sure she's watching the meeting via the internet, so she apologizes for not being here tonight. What you have before you, the agenda for today's board meeting, to have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is adopted.
We have recognitions, and I'm going to defer to Justin Gaston. Gaston.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. We'll begin with a proclamation for World Autism Day, which actually was at the start of this month. Whereas World Autism Day is an internationally recognized day on April 2nd every year, whereas World Autism Day encourages countries around the world to take measures to raise awareness about people with autism spectrum disorder, and whereas the latest data show that 1 in 59 children is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and whereas autism affects all ethnic groups and socioeconomic levels and has no medical detection as of yet. And whereas Hoover City Schools proudly serves approximately 300 autistic students in all settings and grade levels, and whereas continuous training and professional development occur throughout our system as knowledge of autism continues to evolve. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Hoover City Board of Education acknowledges and celebrates our district's vast range of abilities and backgrounds and the contributions made by those individuals to our school system, society, and our world. And to receive the proclamation, we have our autism specialist for the school system, as lined up by Claire Jones-Moore, Miss Kelly Underwood. Is she here tonight? Please, way back in the back. Come on, let's give her a hand. Okay, and I'll defer to Dr. Murphy.
I'd like to also acknowledge Dustin Chandler. Did Dustin get to join us?
Yes, I'm right here.
Yes, Dustin, would you come in? Dustin serves on our Superintendent's Advisory Council and represents our special needs students, is a huge advocate and supporter of all students with an absolute passion for addressing those special needs students. Has done a great deal of work in Montgomery legislatively to support our children. And so I wanted to thank you as we're thinking about Autism Month and the celebration of that and those students, to also acknowledge you and the great work you're doing, not only in this district, but in our state. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, you can see on the big screen, fourth grader at Deer Valley Elementary School, Chris Nathan. He is the Alabama representative, or the winner for the 2019 Alabama State Geographic Bee. Will be representing the state in Washington, D.C. next month. Along with his other contenders. Is Krish with us tonight? I believe he is. Okay, perfect. Come on forward, Krish. Stay right here with us for a second. This is the really interesting part. So this next slide, this is his brother 3 years ago in the same competition in Washington. He's back there. So congratulations to Capel, and he's here as part of the math team tonight. I believe you brought a book, right? What is this right here?
It's the almanac. I got it for my state bee winning. So, and I got that along with this medal.
Congratulations. Very nice. Thank you so much. We'll somebody grab a picture for me of both brothers before they leave tonight, if they don't mind? Next up on the agenda, the Berry Middle School PBIS team, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support. They won an award recently. One of the tops in the state, Dr. Chris Robbins, principal at Berry Middle School, alerted me to this. This is the Gold Star Perseverance Award of Excellence from the University of Alabama PBIS office. Only a handful, as I mentioned, won this award. It recognizes excellence in the following areas of PBIS. His PBIS team is coming forward, as you see right here, from Berry Middle School. I'll quickly run through these areas. They implement highly effective positive student recognition programs school-wide. The school-wide Class 1 discipline infraction data is congruent with Berry's demographic makeup. Regular and effective analysis of student data relating to positive recognition as well as students and areas in need of additional support. They did a creation of effective student intervention plans with evidence of success, and community engagement and business partnerships were highly lauded. So congratulations to Dr. Robbins and his team with us tonight. Next up on the screen is Jessica Bradley, senior at Hoover High School. I believe I saw her come in tonight. Jessica, if you'll be making your way to the front. She's just a PR machine, let's put it that way. And if you've not seen her name in the news or on social media, you've been hiding under a rock. So she is the 2019 state honoree for the Provincial Spirit of Community Award, state of Alabama. So that's a national recognition. She is also one of 100 awardees for the first ever Amazon Future Engineer Scholarship. I think that was a surprise to you last week. And actually, if all of our honorees will stick around a little bit for photos in the lobby, that'd be great. Next up, the Hoover Buccanettes, led by Alicia Wilbanks. Ms. Wilbanks will be coming forward. And you can see the team there on the screen. They were in Orlando. I believe it's back in the end of February, right? And so we have a general certificate there, and then we got varsity and JV. And very quickly, we'll read their accolade here. So this was the National Dance Alliance High School Dance, and I forgot to put the JV photo up there, so I'll get to that. So we'll tweet out and Facebook out the JV team along with the varsity team that's on the screen. National Dance Championships in Orlando. The JV Buccanettes finished 3rd in hip hop and 5th in jazz in the nation. And the varsity made it to finals by finishing 7th in the nation in jazz, highest in school history, correct? And 15th in the nation in hip hop, missing the cutoff for finals by only 0.3 points. So, congratulations. Well, listen, yes, would all the Buccanettes please come forward? Wonderful. And Ms. Wilbanks will call your name to do a certificate. You said someone in her ear, right? Just one. It's not right. Okay.
We're missing something, so I'll give them to him on one.
Wonderful. And while they are here, we'll be able to group for help.
Real tight. Real tight.
Let's give them one more round of applause. And are any of the parents here tonight? Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your support. Thank you. I saw in the lobby a second ago, Mr. Martin Roshano, Hoover High math teacher. Is he here, and will his team be making their way forward?
He is here. He'll be there momentarily.
Okay.
I'm a trout.
Bottleneck in the lobby.
He's important.
That's yours, buddy. Afternoon, guys. How you doing? I'm Martin Roshano. I have the pleasure of being the math teacher at Hoover High School and representing the best that the state has to offer in mathematics competition. We've heard of regular geometry. We've heard of regular algebra 2. We've heard of pre-AP. Double, triple that, and you're not even close to what these guys are doing. These guys are doing a fantastic job. They are solving problems no one's ever seen before, which is exactly what we're trying to get our kids to do. Solve problems they've never seen before. To solve the problems of the world. We have no solutions yet, but they're going to find them. Okay. I want to introduce my team this year. They came in third in comprehensive, fourth in algebra 2, and yes, second in geometry in the state of Alabama. We're going to nationals in Las Vegas. We've been invited to go. And my goal is to top 8, gentlemen and ladies. Top 8. 8th in the country. That's our goal. That's our goal. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Yes. All people in the front. No. All people in the back. Come on. All people in the back. Let's go. All people. Go. Squeeze in. Squeeze in. You like each other. Come on. Thank you.
Good job.
Next up, another PR powerhouse, Miss Lauren Choi. I see her making her way forward. Several of you were at the Finley Awards Banquet back on March 21st at the Finley Center, where she delivered her keynote address as the winner for Spain Park High School. So congratulations on that once again. Some other accolades we want to recognize. She has won a very prestigious National Honor Society scholarship and has been named a National Merit Scholar for 2019. So congratulations to Lauren.
Lauren is also being recognized by our State Department of Education on Thursday. Remind me again, that honor is?
National Merit Scholar.
For the National Merit Scholar. Congratulations.
We had we always have some success with the UAB Outstanding Alumnus Program, and that ceremony was recently. So Melissa Leahy, is she in the house tonight? She was named, as you see on the screen, the 2019 Outstanding Graduate in the Educational Leadership Program. So congratulations, Ms. Leahy. And if Dr. Chris Robbins is still around, he may be in the lobby, but here he is again. He was named the UAB School of Education Outstanding Alumnus of the Year. Congratulations. Mr. Daniel Schafel, I saw him sitting down earlier. He has been named a statewide code.org facilitator, very rare designation. It's part of the development program for computer science fundamentals, as you see on the screen, 1 of 6 in Alabama. Congratulations, Daniel. And the Hoover High School cheerleading team, Miss Mary Glenn Freeman, already spoken to her tonight. If she and the cheerleaders will make their way forward. They had a 3rd place national finish, 0 deductions, at the UCA 2019 Nationals in Orlando. Also, another accolade for them, earlier this school year, they were the Alabama 7A High School State Champions. So congratulations to the Hoover High School cheerleading team. And are any parents with the cheerleading team here tonight? Any representatives? All right, did we miss anyone in recognitions? All right, Dr. Murphy, Board of Education, that concludes our recognitions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really have our public participation at this point in our board meeting tonight. We realize there are several people here tonight that may want to comment to us about the city presentation about some possible roads around the city. So if you don't mind, we will allow you to address the board in comments only after the city has made a presentation, I think, from Mr. Rice tonight. So if you would, please wait until we get to that point. We will not adjourn without giving you an opportunity to speak. Other than the topic of possible roads, ingress, egress into Hoover High School, is there anyone that would like to comment? Mr. Schultz. I know you've been told this before, Mr. Schultz. Please provide us with your name, address, topic you'd like to speak on. Good name and character cannot be discussed, nor can any disciplinary actions that might come before the board now or in the past. Thank you.
My name is Robin Schultz, and I'm going to talk about the Hoover City Schools Foundation Denim and Dining that we're having this Friday, to which you all are invited, and everybody here is invited, and everybody at home is invited. And for those of you that don't know what it is, the Hoover City Schools Foundation provides grants to teachers for them to do special projects that normally can't be funded by the school system. We raise money through two major fundraisers. Our first fundraiser is Denim and Dining, which is going to be at Noah's this Friday, where we're going to have a silent auction, we're going to have entertainment, we're going to have a live auction, and it's going to be a blast. Tickets are available online. You just need to go to the Hoover City Schools Foundation Facebook page or our website and look them up, and you can buy them online. It's going to start it's Friday evening and at Noah's, and it's a blast, and I hope to see everybody there. Thank you very much.
We'd like to remind everyone here the Hoover Schools Foundation is not employed by the state. It is truly donations from the community. A lot of people put a lot of time into this, their own time to help get funding in. It's totally private. It does not come through the school district, so we owe a great amount of thanks to what people do in our community and what they give back to our school district, which is not taxpayer money. Does anybody else like to speak? Okay.
Board members, you have before you action items. A represents the minutes of our regular board meeting March 12, 2019. And B represents our personnel action. I'm going to ask if you would approve both of those unless you find that objectionable. I would like to make note of 3 appointments on the personnel report, 1 change of status, 8 requests for leave of absence, 7 resignations, 7 retirements with a total of 170 years of commitment to children and education, 5 principals with contract renewals, and 4 contingent bus driver appointments. I would like to ask that you approve both A, the minutes for this last meeting, March 12th, and our personnel report.
Thank you. This is a consent agenda. Any of the board can motion if it passes out. We can address any one of these at one time. But for the purposes of the superintendent's recommendation, do I have a motion to accept these 2 A and B?
So moved.
The second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'd like to have a point of privilege to ask the principals whose contracts have been renewed. Would you walk up, please? And I just want to share 2 or 3 really good bullets about each of these individuals. Dil Uswate, Dr. Uswate, are you with us? Also would like to ask Alice Turney, if Ms. Turney is here, Brian Kane, Scott Mitchell, and Amy Gregory are all contract renewals. Dr. Uswate, I want to acknowledge you first, our principal at Rocky Ridge Elementary School. I am so proud of the work that is being done at Rocky Ridge and your leadership, Dr. Uswate, particularly hanging her hat on the fact that she is the first school in our district that has applied for and well on her way in terms of national STEM. I believe that visit from Advanced Ed occurs this month, and we're excited to be a part of that. And this is really leading the way for our district. And as a matter of fact, there are not that many STEM schools yet Advanced Ed accredited in the state. So I acknowledge your work there. Dr. Uswate has also been selected as an outstanding leader as an elementary principal in our state. So congratulations for that. Dr. Uswate will also be featured in a national directory called The American Dream. And this is regarding the connection and the importance of education in achieving our dreams as Americans. And so, Dr. Uswate, it is my honor that your contract is being renewed. So thank you for your work. Dr. Alice Turney, River Chase Elementary School. So proud of Dr. Turney and the work that she does. Dr. Turney has a passion which was evident when she sought for her school and for her students National Blue Ribbon Lighthouse Award. Congratulations on that national distinction. She also does lots of things as it relates to our city. The Hoover City Beautification Award often comes your way, a real interest in taking care of that campus and having it be aesthetically attractive. She also has won an award, her school has, for the Alliance for Healthier Generations. We're proud of that. Also an honorable mention for Alabama 200 Bicentennial, and lots of other things that are happening at your school under your leadership. Again, thank you, and proud to have your contract being renewed likewise. Ms. Gregory is completing a 2-year probationary tenure with us at Green Valley Elementary School, and so congratulations on completing that probationary period, and now is moving into a 3-year contract with our school district. Dr. Amy, Ms. Gregory has spent a great deal of time building relationships these first 2 years with her faculty and her staff. She's spent lots of time focused on the mission statement of her school and creating a safe and a very welcoming environment there. Lots of focus on the professional development in her school and embracing the diverse population of students that she has at Deer Valley. Lots of professional learning communities, and likewise, we're delighted to have you moving to a 3-year contract with our school district. Thank you so much for your leadership. My friend Scott Mitchell, thank you so much. Also for your leadership at Brock's Gap Intermediate School. Perhaps the most impacted school district in our entire school district is that of Brock's Gap with the rezoning plan, and so Mr. Mitchell has handled that like a trooper, and I appreciate that. Brock's Gap Intermediate School has been named by Niche in 2018 as one of the top 4 middle schools in our state. Again, he was hugely impacted with rezoning, not only having his school be reconfigured, but almost all new students and thus all new parents. And 2/3 of his faculty was a turnover in terms of those faculty transitioning. And again, he led like a real trooper, and I'm just appreciative for that. Also recognized by the United States Department of Education as a National Green Ribbon School, which is based on excellence in environmental impact and health and education. My honor to see your contract being renewed with the school district. Thank you so much. Next, board members, I'd like to ask Michelle McKay to come up and share with us the monthly financials, cash disbursements, and payroll for March 2019.
Good evening. Please find attached the summary and general purpose financial statements for the month ended February 28, 2019, based on reconciled bank statements for fiscal year 2019. For the FY19 budget, 71.29% of budget revenue has been received for the month ended February 28, 2019. Tax receipts have increased compared to the prior year period in 2018. Don't get too excited. Ad valorem taxes are collected at the beginning of the fiscal year, and then collections decline the remainder of the year. And therefore, we will only see small collections for the remainder of the year. The results of operations represent 5 months of activity. Accordingly, approximately 42% of the budget would be anticipated to have been spent for recurring expenditures. General fund expenditures are 39.72%. So for the 5 months of activity, the current month's reserve is 10.64, but that too will decline throughout the remainder of the year due to the decline of ad valorem taxes. Expenditures for February included capital payments for RC3, purchase of Chromebooks for 6th and 7th grade refresh, and principal and interest paid on existing debt. Special revenue expenditures for 5 months of activity were $9.4 million, or 50.39% of the budget. Special revenue income is collected a month in arrears from federal funds. And Dr. Murphy, did you want me to stay for the other?
I can call you back up
That's
if you
fine.
don't mind.
No.
Board members, I'd like to ask your approval for the monthly financial statement, February FY19, the cash disbursements for February, $5,792,830, and also our payroll for March, $7,941,352. I request your approval of those business action items.
Board, I have a motion to accept the business actions as proposed by Dr. Murphy as well as the payroll expenditures.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, under action items, we always come to you this time of the year to ask your approval to alter our summer work schedule to allow us in those departments where it's fitting for us to have 4-day work week with 10-hour days. That does not work in all departments. For example, it does not work well for maintenance, who would be outside for 10 hours in the heat. And so the request before you is to allow us the flexibility of 4-day work weeks, but also to allow me to work with directors in those particular departments where that might not be advisable. So my recommendation to you is to allow us an altered summer work schedule, allowing for those departments with 4-day work week, 10-hour days.
Do I have a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation on the summer work schedule for this coming summer?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, board members will move to new business and to also superintendent's report and information reports. And first up is a presentation from the city and Mr. Alan Rice. Told me he might be a little bit late.
Dr. Excuse me,
Yes.
John Green, I just got a text for you,
Okay,
so I'll be there shortly, so.
okay. All right,
All right on time, Dr. Murphy, don't worry, all right on time.
Let's push pause for just a moment of time then, and let me ask Michelle McKay if you would come up and share 2 reports with us, the general fund financial analysis and the analysis of tax receipts.
I thought this might be a good time, since we're almost halfway through the year, to share some additional information with you. So the general fund financial analysis form that you have in front of you is a 4-year snapshot comparing revenues and expenditures. If you look at total revenues, that reflects our recurring revenues, and our total expenditures is a snapshot of the recurring expenditures. You can see both of these are very steady. If you look at the total revenues for the fiscal year 2017, you will see that one particular raise in our revenue. That's due to the sale of Old Ferry and the one-time Jefferson County tax revenue that we received. But other than that, everything else is very steady. We don't see any huge jumps. I don't anticipate any huge jumps in our budget for 2019. I expect to be right where we are. If you look down at your total expenditures, if you look at fiscal year 2018, you'll see there's a slight rise from 17 to 18. That's when we started all of our capital projects. So that's where we started with our track and turf at the 2 high schools, the band room at Hoover High, and now we're getting into RC3. And you'll see that some of that money that was brought in 2017, we used it in 2018 to cover capital projects. We're going to use it in 2019, and then we'll probably have a little bit left over that we can use to help us with the band room in 2020. So I just wanted you to see what a snapshot of our revenues and expenditures look like, and that we really have been steady for the last 4 years. The next one is the analysis of tax receipts. It again supports that steady revenue flow that we just saw on the previous page. You have your 24 mills from the city of Hoover. I would like to say that I'm not anticipating much of a difference in the FY20. So again, just wanted you to be aware of what we have, what we've expected from our Jefferson County, Shelby counties, and city of Hoover tax revenues. I would like to present this again at year end and maybe use a bar graph if you would be agreeable to that and you think that might be helpful. I didn't want to do that right now because we don't have full 4 years and I didn't want to use 5 to 6 months into the FY20, FY19.
Michelle.
Yes.
Ms. Hancock, and I believe you were assisting earlier, as we get the new property, the commercial property out of current use into commercial,
Yes.
I think in the summertime, or maybe when you get a projection about the taxes and arrears, and you get a report, maybe whatever's profit for that.
Oh, I can definitely do that.
Yeah, we should see in arrears an increase in ad valorem just simply because the Hoover's done such a great job, and we should have more commercial tax dollars coming through ad valorem.
We're hoping for that. Yes, we are. Thank you. And then if I could just make one other note, I would like to present to you at the May board meeting the athletic and the other extracurricular supplement salary schedule for 2019-2020. There are no changes to the existing supplements. However, there is one supplement in the amount of $3,880 that we would like to add for those contracted principals that earn an advanced degree. So that would be your master's to your EDS and then your EDS to your doctorate. That will be the only change to that, and I would like to present that to you in the May board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is very helpful for us to sort of see ourselves in a longitudinal way. Also, board members, you have in a packet of information that we've provided you online, the financials for FY18. This is as presented by the State Department of Education. It allows us an opportunity to look at our school district in relation to all other school districts in the state. What does a meal in Hoover, what is the equivalent of a meal in Hoover compared to other school districts, for example? What is our commitment to transportation? How much money do we expend per student in relation to all other districts? So there's a wealth of information here. And so I share that information just for your review, no particular report specific to that. I would like to now ask Dr. Smith. I just was looking around. Dr. Smith, if you would come and help us celebrate our recent advanced ed report.
Good evening. It is my privilege and pleasure to share with you the final report of our Advanced Ed Engagement Review Team. Before I begin, I would like to give you just a few reminders. Advanced Ed is the largest community of education professionals in the world. They are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that conducts rigorous, on-site reviews of a variety of educational institutions and systems to ensure that all learners realize their full potential. Their expertise is grounded in more than 100 years of work in school accreditation. The goal of Advanced Ed isn't to certify that educational institutions are good enough. Rather, their commitment is to help institutions continuously improve. They serve as a trusted partner to 36,000 educational institutions, employing more than 4 million educators and enrolling more than 20 million students across the United States and 70 other nations. Our visit occurred February 3rd through the 6th of 2019. Prior to the team's arrival, parents, students, teachers were surveyed, and that information was shared with the team. Leadership teams completed diagnostics and provided evidence. The 5-member Advanced Ed Engagement Review Team conducted 509 interviews, completed 55 Elliott observations, and examined evidence using the I3 rubric, Initiate, Improve, and Impact, which I will explain a little bit more later. The themes that they identified for us were collaboration, stakeholder engagement, leadership and strategic planning, culture of high expectations, and communication. Advanced Ed Standards Diagnostic results, the team used this tool to evaluate our effectiveness. It consists of 3 components built around 3 domains: leadership capacity, learning capacity, and resource capacity. They're recorded within 4 ranges which are identified by color. Red indicating needs improvement and identifies key areas that need more focused improvement efforts. Yellow, emerging, represents areas to enhance and extend current improvement efforts. Green, meets expectations. This pinpoints quality practices that meet the standards. And blue, exceeds expectations. This demonstrates noteworthy practices producing clear results that exceed expectations. Leadership capacity domain. This domain examines the capacity of leadership to ensure an institution's progress toward its stated objectives. Fidelity and commitment to its purpose and direction, effectiveness of governance and leadership to enable the institution to realize its stated objectives, the ability to engage and involve stakeholders in meaningful and productive ways, and the capacity to implement strategies that improve learner and educator performance. There are a total of 11 standards in this domain. The results for Hoover City Schools in leadership capacity, all 11 standards exceeded expectations. Learning capacity domain. This is the impact of teaching and learning on student achievement and success is the primary expectation of every institution. An effective learning culture is characterized by positive and productive teacher-learning relationships, high expectations and standards, a challenging and engaging curriculum, quality instruction, comprehensive support for all learners, assessment practices both formative and summative that monitor and measure learner progress and achievement, evaluates the impact of his learning culture by all programs and support services are reviewed and adjust accordingly when things don't go as planned. There are a total of 12 standards in this domain. The results for Hoover City School, we had 1 in emerging, 2.2, the learning culture promotes creativity, innovation, and collaborative problem solving. We also had 8 standards which met expectations and 3 that exceeded expectations in this domain. Our opportunity for improvement. With standard 2.2, the team said that the evidentiary work of the team yielded an area for improvement in the learning culture around student experiences in creativity, innovation, and collaborative problem solving. They used the following tools to identify this: the teacher inventory results, elementary and middle school climate and culture survey results, and the Elliott observation. The resource capacity domain. This is the use and distribution of resources to support the stated mission of the institution. The institution ensures that resources are distributed and utilized equitably. The needs of all learners are adequately and effectively addressed. It supports professional learning for all staff, examines the allocation and use of resources to ensure appropriate levels of funding, sustainability, organizational effectiveness, increased student learning, and there are a total of 8 standards in this domain. Our results, we have 3 that met expectations and 5 that exceeded. Advanced Ed also conducted Elliott. This is the Effective Learning Environments Observation Tool. It's a learner-centric observation tool, meaning that the team is actually looking at student engagement and what the students are doing, and not necessarily what the teachers are doing in the room. These are comprised of 28 items and organized in 7 environments, which are aligned with the Advanced Ed standards. Classroom observations are conducted for a minimum of 20 minutes. And the Advanced Ed Improvement Network results are used to benchmark results. You'll hear that term again, and the network is comprised of every district over the past 5 years that had an accreditation visit. Our results, if you look at our ratings for the environment, equitable learning environment, 2.8, I just touch something. Sorry. High expectations environment, 2.93, supportive learning environment, 3.3, active learning environment, 2.94, progress monitoring and feedback environment, 2.81, well-managed learning environment, 3.6, and digital learning environment, 1.98. I'd like to share that if you would look at the Advanced Ed Network score for digital learning, that's a 1.5. So you can tell that throughout this process, this continues to be an area that is difficult for the team to actually note. Sometimes it's hard to see, but we're not the only area or system that is struggling with this area. But I am proud to say we exceeded that 5-year average for the network.
Go back to pen and paper.
Advanced Ed assurances. Institutions are expected to meet all assurances and are expected to correct any deficiencies that are identified as unmet. Hoover City Schools met all assurances and we had none identified as unmet. The Advanced Ed findings for the I3 rubric. Initiate means that there are areas that are priorities for improvement. These must be addressed by the institution to retain accreditation. Improve opportunities for improvement, and the institution should consider these as they move forward. And then impact, that means that we have effective practices. Our results, we had none identified in the initiate level, 1 identified in the approved level, which was the standard 2.2, and 30 identified at the impact effective practices. The Advanced Ed Index of Education Quality, this is a holistic measure of overall performance and is based on a comprehensive set of standards and review criteria. This identifies areas of success as well as areas of focus and is comprised of the standards diagnostic ratings from the 3 domains that we discussed: leadership capacity, learning capacity, and resource capacity. It's reported on a scale of 100 to 400. Below 250 means that you're at the initiate level and there's work to do before you can get your accreditation status. 225 to 300, you're at the improved level with opportunities to improve. And 275 and above identifies that you're at the impactful practices level. The Advanced Ed Network IEQ range is 278.34 to 283.33. And let me remind you that this is the average or range of averages for those districts who have been reviewed over the last 5 years. Hoover City Schools scored a 359.35, so our score is at the impact level. What does that mean? Well, we are accredited. On April the 4th, 2019, we received an official email of our accreditation status, and we will receive an award letter within the next 4 to 6 weeks. Our next steps, to review and share the findings with stakeholders. We're doing this at this board meeting. The final report will be posted on our website. We share it with stakeholder groups in multiple settings: HBTC, the Hoover Foundation, PTO meetings. We're going to develop plans to address priorities for improvement, a thorough review by our district and school leadership teams, and we're going to add additional action steps to address our findings and the 2019-2020 continuous improvement plans. We're going to also use our findings and the data from the report to guide and strengthen our continuous improvement efforts. That will entail a review of our areas of responsibilities and identifying opportunities for growth and improvement. One of my roles is actually the Director of English Language Learners. And as I've been looking at this report, I've been thinking about the resources and personnel that serve this group of learners. And so it's time for us to use our reflective lenses to see we're doing a good job, but what else can we do to support them as we move forward? I know Kelly Lane had some thoughts about technology as well, but we're also looking at those things as to what can we do to continue our efforts and continue to improve and grow. We will continue the improvement journey using the findings to begin and continue discussions for improvement. We will reflect, refocus, refine our practices, and we must take the time to celebrate the success noted in this report. According to the Advanced Ed Engagement Review Team, extraordinary visionary leadership, a student-centered, data-informed board, and caring, committed educators and stakeholders create a foundation for a highly successful, sustainable system of excellence. Hoover City Schools is a remarkable place to be. I would like to thank Dr. Murphy, the board, the district, and school level administrators, teachers, staff, students, parents, business and industry partners, the city of Hoover, especially Mr. Alan Rice and Dustin Moore, for your support and participation during this process. I agree with the engagement review team. Hoover City Schools is a remarkable place to be.
I too would like to thank Dr. Smith. I've done that on an occasion or two, but I want to do it again because Dr. Smith has done an excellent, exceptional job of leading us through this study. And as I said to a couple of board members today, if I had 3 thumbs, I'd give her 3 thumbs up, but I just have 2. And not just to Dr. Smith, but to everyone who's played a role in this process, and it's many of you, and I'm grateful for that. And one of the members of that team that came to visit said to me, Hoover City School has set the standard. And so our score is exceptional. It is a remarkable place to be. I'm proud of the school district. I believe this study is evidence of the terrific teachers throughout the school district, the awesome leaders in the school district, the terrific support staff that we have in the school district, and the leadership of this board, and I'm grateful for all, and to our parents and to our students. So to everyone, thank you. This is a terrific report, so thank you for that. It is my understanding that Alan Rice, Mr. Rice is with us, and would like to invite Mr. Rice to come in.
And Mr. Rice will be here in a second, along with Mr. Westhoven. Mr. Rice is here as a courtesy. Ms. Bowman and I attended a Public Works committee hearing last week. Excuse me, so we saw some of the material here. Mr. Rice, Mr. Westhoven were kind enough to come here and share some of the same information. They're not here to take questions now. We have plenty of time for that, and I'll explain it later. There is no board action for us tonight on the Board of Education. We're nowhere near that. This is information, and thank you for being here to help share it in this environment again. As I mentioned before, once they're through with their presentation, we will allow we'll request you to come forward and comment to the board about what you see here. We'll be glad to listen to you, but thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight.
I want to acknowledge, Mr. Rice, you did share with me that you would be running a little bit late. We were a little ahead of schedule, so sorry about that.
No problem. Anytime I can help you be ahead of schedule. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Mr. President and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to come and more formally bring to you some information about a very conceptual planning process that the city is engaged in. And of course, there's been quite a bit of media attention given to it, and I know that it's out in the public where it should be, because this will involve public discussion as a huge component as we go forward. Kind of at the 80,000 foot view, we all are aware that there are significant traffic concerns in the western part of Hoover. Some of those are pretty significant and are a long time in the making and in the formulation of our current traffic situation. So under the mayor and the council's direction, the staff has been involved in a number of different projects and exploratory processes to try to alleviate traffic in the western part of Hoover. It's certainly not only due to school traffic, but we do have our largest concentration of school facilities in that corridor as well. So we have to be sensitive to the needs of getting kids effectively to and from our campuses while also accommodating just typical rush hour traffic. So we have several things that are underway. One of those is an exploratory process about a new road in and out of the Trace Crossings community somewhere. So I know there's been a lot of excitement. We've heard a lot from the community. You probably have heard some too. We've met with individual community members and some groups because we did give an update. We were requested to give an update to the council's Public Works Committee, who obviously would oversee a road project of this magnitude. I think last week. And so there was an existing committee meeting and the chairman asked for an update. And so we brought in kind of a snapshot of where we are. And, you know, as things work, that certainly was a public meeting and things were reported and we shared graphics. And there's just been a lot of emotion attached to some of that. So the one thing I wanted to be sure that we communicate tonight is there's probably 6 or 7 identifiable phases of a project like this, and we are very early in the first phase. We were very much in the conceptual phase of any road project that would impact these neighborhoods and these communities. And as we've shared with the public, and will continue to do so, public feedback and public comment will have to be part of that process. There's just no way that the mayor or any of our council members, I'm sure, would go forward with a decision of this magnitude and an expenditure of this magnitude without hearing from the public and listening and heeding the input that they get. So having said that, I try to make it a habit to always hang around people that are smarter than I am. So I brought Tim Westover, and he's a real engineer, and he's gonna go through just a few slides and talk to you a little bit about the different routes, but I wanted to caveat all that for the board and for the members of the public who are here tonight. We're here because any of the 4 routes that have so far been discussed would necessarily connect to school board property. We're not, as the president very correctly said, we're not here to ask for any action. We're not sure any of this will ever happen. And if it does, we don't know what iteration of it might happen. But the 4 routes that have been entered into the dialogue thus far would necessarily connect to Buccaneer Drive. So we wanted to put this on your radar screen as a body, make you aware of the discussion, and allow you to engage in that discussion along with us. I think we've got a wonderful partnership, and we work issues very collaboratively. And this is one of those issues that we just need to try to solve together as we go forward. So that being said, I'll let Tim present, and then he and I will both answer any questions that the board might have. And thank you for having us.
We're going to tap dance a minute while we upload these slides. How about that?
We're a little late in providing the slides, so Mr. Guest is about to load you up.
Is it to pull my email up in front of everybody here? Everybody wants to turn their head. Okay. See, I'm very transparent. Okay. We're gonna download that. And we're gonna open it.
All right, good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. Thank you for having us tonight. As Alan said, I'll just step you through this, and if there are any questions, we'll be happy to try to answer them for the board. As Alan did indicate, we were tasked with trying to find alternative routes in and out of trace crossings, and in doing so, we've been working on this for the last 6 or 8 months, and I want to give you just a little bit of summary information, and then we'll go into the actual routes. So in summary, what we identified were actually 20 alternative routes from trace crossings directly to Highway 150. Of those 20, we considered 5 of them to be base routes. So there are 5 primarily different routes, and each of those base routes had alternatives that at one point or another the road would dive off and go in a different direction, thus creating the 20 alternatives. So we narrowed it down to 5 base routes, and then one of the very important things, which is why we're here, is 4 of the 5 base routes involve the use of Buccaneer Drive, the ring road around Hoover High. One of the 5 base routes was considered economically infeasible, as it was $20 million plus in construction. It ranged anywhere from $20 million to $35 million, depending on the alternate that was being looked at. So we've actually eliminated that out of our summary here. Some of these routes that you'll see may have significant and very obvious disadvantages. We just wanted you to know we know that, we see that. Some of the routes may have what I call ancillary advantages. They may be some advantages that you don't see to them. 3 of the 4 base routes have options that create 10 different alternates. So we've reduced down from 20 alternates to 10 alternates, from 5 base routes to 4 base routes. So what that's saying is one of those base routes really only has one option. And then 3 of the 4 base routes access Highway 150 at an existing traffic signal on Highway 150. We also think that's very important. Our consideration there is that if we create an intersection or tie to an intersection that does not have a traffic signal on Highway 150 at this point, we do not believe the traffic generated on that road will be significant enough to allow or warrant for a new traffic signal on Highway 150. We think that will be very difficult to get from the state. Now I want to go into some definitions of what our comparative criteria, how we defined our comparative criteria. The first comparative criteria is what we called an affected resident. An affected resident is one who must travel the new route to reach or leave their home. This is different, in our opinion, from an impacted resident, which is one who actually has a driveway that intersects the new route. So if you have a home that had a driveway that intersects what we created as a new route, then we consider that an impacted resident. If you lived on a cul-de-sac off of the new route, then you're affected because you're going to have to get on that new route and you're going to have to mix with the new traffic. So we consider that to be an affected resident. The cost, it includes both the estimated cost of the right-of-way to be acquired and the construction cost. So the cost that you see up there is right-of-way and construction. The traffic number that you see up there, it will be the total number of estimated vehicles per day once it's complete. And then there's a term that you'll see up there called average distance, and that's the average distance of an impacted home to the new route. In other words, if your home has a driveway that is sitting on that route, how far away from that route is that home? Is it 20 feet or is it 200 feet? What is the average distance on that route? And that's average, okay? All right, so the first alternate we have is Willow Trace, and I did bring, does this laser work on this? Yeah, I thought I remembered that. All right, so I'll try to get everybody oriented. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you see Hoover High School, and the route kind of travels, you see some red on there, and that is a bridge that connects to the back end of Willow Trace subdivision, which actually that is Trace Crossings Trail, I believe. And the new route would be from the Ring Road to Trace Crossings Trail out to Highway 150 at the existing intersection of Trace Crossings driveway. Oops, sorry, boy, it's sensitive. What's it doing? It's going crazy. I'm not doing anything. It's haunted. It's saying not that in. Let's see. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, back on alternate one. Okay, so the cost of alternate one, does everybody kind of, then Highway 150 is off in the upper right-hand corner of there.
Somebody have a pointer, they can point it this way, we can see it.
We have pointers, but it bleeds into the screen. So there's no way to tell. I wish I could.
Where's your cursors?
Yeah, the cursors don't work on PowerPoint. Is that pointer work? No, awesome. Okay. All right, where's forward back?
That's why you have technology.
Oh, so I like it. Okay. All right, let's try this again. All right. Up in that corner is Hoover High, and this is Willow Trace subdivision right here. This is Highway 150 right over here. All right. Willow Trace subdivision right now ends very, very close to the Hoover High Ring Road. That little red line right there would be a bridge connection from the Ring Road to Trace Crossings Trail, which is currently a cul-de-sac. The route would be from the Ring Road down Trace Crossings Trail. We would modify the intersection of Trace Crossings Trail and Trace Crossings Drive slightly to make that movement, the through movement, out to Highway 150 right there at an existing traffic signal. That's alternate one. The estimated cost of that project is $3.1 million. Go back over here. The estimated cost is $3.1 million. The estimated traffic is 3,050 cars per day. The number of affected residents is 204. The number of impacted residents is 57. And then the average distance from the home to the new route is 55 feet. So there's 204 residents basically in Willow Trace subdivision, and there's 57 homes that would front the new route.
So are there two
Excuse me, sir. How do you get
Excuse me.
3,000 cars,
Excuse me.
200 residents?
If you don't mind, let's let them finish, and then we're gonna allow you to speak to us when we're done. Do you mind? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The distance from the cul-de-sac to 150, how far is that?
I don't know that.
0.75 miles.
I would venture it's probably 0.3 to half a mile long.
$1 million a mile.
That's just my estimate.
The customer.
The cul-de-sac.
The second alternate would be the Cahaba River Estates option. Again, you have Hoover High over here in the upper left. And currently, Cahaba River Estates Drive ends fairly close to the ring road right there. And in this option, we would connect to Cahaba River Estates Drive, improve the existing roadway portion through here. These are proposed traffic circles at existing intersections on Cahaba River Estates Drive as traffic calming measures through here. And then you would route through here. Now right here, Cahaba River Estates Drive actually continues down this way and out this way towards Highway 150. We would deviate from Cahaba River Estates Drive and go through undeveloped property right there, head up behind CarMax, and cut over to Cahaba River Estates Drive right there at another traffic circle, and then out to Highway 150 at an existing intersection. The estimated cost of that project is $7.9 million. The estimated traffic is 1,750 cars per day. The number of affected residents is 67. The number of impacted residents would be 30. The average distance of the homes from the route itself is 105 feet. Any questions on that one? Okay.
Board, any questions?
Alternate number 3 is what we call the golf cart trail. And again, you have Hoover High over here on the left side. And we would, under this option, propose to make a connection from the ring road down to the golf cart trail or walking trail that actually splits between Park Trace and Willow Trace and comes over here and bisects the parking lot of Hunter Street and wraps around the youth. This is the youth center right there. It wraps around the youth center, comes out and intersects Mars Hill Road and intersects Highway 150 at Mars Hill Road.
Is that Andy's, what that is?
Yes, Andy's is right
A
there.
block down from the other light?
That's right, that's correct. It's very, very, very close to the existing Stadium Trace Parkway intersection. There is no traffic signal at that intersection, and that would be one of the intersections that would be difficult to get a traffic signal.
If you don't mind, please, they're here as a courtesy to all of us to listen. If you don't mind, we're gonna give you an opportunity to talk to us. Let's listen, please. Thank you.
The estimated cost of this option is $4.5 million. The estimated traffic on that roadway would be 2,560 cars per day. Of course, the affected residents and the impacted residents is 0, and the average distance is not applicable. Now, that's specifically under the definition that I read to you earlier. Obviously, there will be homes that will back up to this new roadway. Although the driveways don't intersect, there will be some affected, I would think. It says 0, but it doesn't quite fit under our definition of being affected.
Has Hunter Street been contacted yet?
No, ma'am.
And so this particular option would completely take out the walking trail.
More than likely, at this point in time, we haven't done enough engineering work to determine how we would try to put that back. You know, could potentially turn it into a sidewalk that would be up along the roadway and then dive back down to the walking trail. We just haven't done enough in depth at that point.
Any of this eminent domain situation, or I'm not talking about the school side?
Well, we haven't gotten that far yet, Mr. Kelly. Yeah. Any questions about that? Okay. Then the fourth alternate goes back to Cahaba River Estates. Again, involves Cahaba River Estates. You have Hoover High School up here in the upper left. You've got Willow Trace subdivision here. You've got Cahaba River Estates in this area here. What we would propose is connecting to the ring road at this location, coming down through undeveloped property. You have to bridge. You'd have a bridge right there. You go to ground right there. You go back to a very long bridge right there that would span the Cahaba. You go to ground right there, and then you bridge the Cahaba one more time before coming to ground right there. You're going through undeveloped property right here. You basically intersect Cahaba River Estates Drive right at this location here. So you see a little hook intersection right there that takes in this side of Cahaba River Estates Drive, and then an intersection right here that takes in this side of Cahaba River Estates Drive. And then from that point, we go up through the same undeveloped property behind CarMax and come out to Cahaba River Estates Drive and intersect Highway 150 at that location. The cost of that project is $17.9 million. The estimated traffic is 1,620 cars per day. The number of affected residents is 32. There are no impacted residents, so there are no residents that actually have driveways on that new road. And the average distance, of course, is not applicable under that scenario. Those are the four base routes that we're looking at. Happy to answer any questions I can that you might have.
Board, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Rice and Mr. Westover?
Well, I noticed all of these seem to dump right into the parking lot of Hoover High School.
I'm sorry.
Well, at least the first three. This is a little different route coming out of the high school, but the other three seem to just kind of dump right into the parking lot. Is that accurate? I know there's a small road that kind of goes around there, but I mean, would we anticipate having to build that up a little bit and increase parking, or how would that work? It just doesn't seem like a good.
Here's how I would see it working, is that once we identify an alternate route as being what we want to try to design and build, that particular intersection will have to be looked at and designed as to, do we want to take the ring road and make it the through movement and everything come off of it, like the parking lot entrances? You know, how do we want to design that, or do we don't want to design it as a three-way stop intersection? Everybody comes up there and stops and turns left or right onto this new road, and then how does that align with whatever our parking lot accesses are? all that will have to be looked at and carefully considered. But until you actually decide what alternate route you want to do, that kind of hard design work won't be done at this point.
Does the egress turn and go out to the north of Trace Crossings, or are you suggesting possibly they go out the South Road or possibly the North Road? Which of the two do?
Say that again? Oh, when you leave or when?
Well, come and go, ingress, egress, either one.
I think they could go any of those places, in my mind. It kind of, if you utilize the ring road, then you open up Learning Lane, the new road through the south.
Maintenance zone and overhaul.
Yes, correct.
So, what type of traffic studies have been done, that helped you come to this conclusion?
Where they developed the traffic numbers that you're seeing is from the regional model. The Regional Planning Commission has a model of all of the traffic. And annually they go out and take traffic counts and calibrate their model. And traffic engineers then take that model and you make connections and then run the model. And the model actually spits out those numbers. And people were asking me, well, that's a different number for each one of those alternates, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I agree with that. What the model takes a look at is it says, okay, everybody is driving where they have to go today. So now all of a sudden I make this connection. So what happens naturally? What happens to this road and how much traffic goes on this road from a natural standpoint? In other words, okay, all of a sudden I have a new option to take today. I had A yesterday, now I have A and B, and I might take B today. And it puts that traffic onto that new road. So the further your options get away from where the existing traffic was going, the more it decreases the amount of traffic that is going to use that option. That's what the model is doing.
So just help me to understand.
I'm trying. I know I speak engineer and I apologize.
So you're talking about a model that you use, which is a system that helps you come up with the traffic.
That's right.
But there hasn't been a specific traffic study done.
No, there has not. And quite honestly, how the school wants to use that road will impact that number considerably.
So depending on which plan we go with, we'll either have an additional 1,620 additional vehicles to 3,050 additional vehicles coming by Hoover High School.
I would say that a good majority of that traffic of the 1,620 or 3,050 are your high school students and teachers. It's not just you. That includes your students too. That includes your student population.
So it doesn't differentiate between pass-through traffic and
where I was trying.
It does not. It does not.
And of the 20 routes that you mentioned in the beginning, how many of them did not use Buccaneer Drive? Like, are there?
There were 10.
There were 10.
There were 10 alternates but again, that stemmed from one base route. And it basically wrapped around Hoover High School and tied to the new South Access Road. And the reason why it was so expensive is because it was almost all bridge. To go around Hoover High and not touch the ring road would basically be all bridge.
So there's no other routes other than
Not that we've
near
identified.
Hoover High School.
Not that we've been able to identify.
So could you all set up a vehicle count, the little thing you put on the road, and let us see how much current traffic we have and take a look at that against what your estimates are so that we can have some idea of how much of this is us versus how much of that could be
Sure.
others doing a pass-through?
Certainly could. What I would suggest is probably doing it in 3 different locations on your ring road. I do one on your little back road that runs between the stadium and the school, probably close up here by the tennis courts. And I do another one somewhere probably just south of your parking lots, your northern parking lots, and try to get that northern part of your ring road. And then go to the other side of Learning Lane and do another one just north of the south parking lots and do one there. And that would show you what traffic you have going to your south parking lots, what traffic you have going to your north parking lots, and whatever traffic is running on the backside there.
I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Will there be sidewalks included on both sides of these roads?
We haven't specifically talked about that, but the mayor's been pretty clear about any new roads that we build, he wants sidewalks on both sides. Unless I get directed otherwise and until the mayor tells me no, then I would say yes.
But none of these cost estimates include that.
They do.
They do.
Then can you explain how the blue area?
Sir, if you don't,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. But
Okay, I understand.
Treatment. Thank you.
So what numbers good?
I'm not letting him ask a question.
Oh, okay, I thought you said a question was been asked.
No, I'm sorry.
I had to stop.
Well, people could spend $20 million, man, they didn't know where their money going.
We're not, this is a city presentation, not the board of education.
And all them bad ideas you asked me. Now we move next bullet.
Could the residents get a copy of these
Somebody's gonna make
options?
So, Mr. President, in closing, what I'll say is that people want transparency in government. This is what that looks like. And there are a lot of, you guys know because you've dealt with a lot of your own construction projects. And there are a lot of plans that get drawn up that never see the light of day. So the engineers that perform this work are external, it's not city staff. But they did what we asked them to do. We said, show us every conceivable route in and out of Trace Crossings. Good idea, bad idea, cost is not a factor, just show us what you got. And that's where the 20 different alternatives come from. So what we've looked at tonight are lines on a screen. I almost said a piece of paper, but lines on a screen. We've not looked at plans. So there's no funding attached to this. There's been absolutely no budgetary action by the city. There's been no hard and fast feasibility and traffic study, which is exactly what you're asking about, because that would only come if we're moving into the phase where you're going to try to select a specific route. So we don't spend that money yet until we even know if there's going to be a road. There's certainly been no acquisition of right-of-way, thought about utilities, and those are all phases that have to come. But we're so far at the beginning of all this. But one thing that is clear, and I think we've done a great job between your board and the city for the last little over 2 years, people spoke loudly in 2016, and they said they wanted good collaboration between the city of Hoover and the Hoover City Schools. And I think we've all lived up to that. And so part of enrolling you in this dialogue now is to make sure that we're being good partners, that we're not sitting in a room in City Hall with the door closed looking at these maps that would potentially impact your property if they ever came to fruition, and then we haven't engaged you on that. So, we don't want people to be upset, we don't want people to be excited and think that any of this is a plan, but we also don't want to fail to honor the mandate that we think we were all given in 2016, which was to communicate and to make sure that we're working collaboratively. We've done a great job of that. This is the next chapter of that. It's going to generate some emails and some phone calls for you guys, and we're not happy about that, but that's also part of the public process, and I know you all understand that. So, no bulldozers have been gassed up, no dump trucks are loaded with asphalt. We're a long, long way from knowing if there ever will be another road into Trace Crossings. This is what that planning process looks like. So with that, if you don't have anything else for us, we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Could the residents possibly get copies of these forms?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, are they leaving? Are we able to ask them questions? Y'all need to stay. Y'all need to stay. Y'all need to stay, please.
So the answer is yes.
As we said early on, the executives of the city are not here to answer questions. We're gonna let you talk to us. Yes, sir.
At your behest, we can stay, if you'll let us use the room, we'll be happy to stay after your meeting and answer any
I'm
questions.
sure, I would appreciate that. I'm
Sure.
sure I'll put an obligation beyond what we talked about. I will say what Mr. Rice said, reiterate with you. We've had no conversations. There's been no non-public meetings. We found out about this last week along with the public. The city does get along extremely well with the Board of Education. We have an open dialogue. We have cell phones with the council, the mayor. So please, this is going to be discussed at length. There will not be an action item put on this agenda, trust me, unless there's some kind of hearing, reading. This is a long process. We have no clue if this is going to take place. There's a lot of moving parts to this. We still own the property that separates any of these projects. So there's a lot of things that has to happen here. So we want to know too. I'm not a member of city government. I'm Board of Education. They're separate. So we appreciate at least understanding and getting to see what is being looked at by the study. So please don't take this to mean they're here. Next thing you know, we're going to have an action item on here. We're going to vote. That's not going to happen. We do appreciate it. As far as the public participation, if someone before you speaks and you're just saying, yes, I agree, I'm ready to stay here all night. I'm fine with it. I got to bed early last night. So if you just, if you don't mind, Dr. Murphy has a business item to go over too. We'll do that and then we'll get to this.
Well, I appreciate the city's presentation. I appreciate them willing to stay, and I know there are lots of conversations that you all want to have, but out of respect for the business of this board, I'd like to finish our items of business. School safety, lockdown button and cameras, Dr. Simmons.
Mr. Hobson, Mr. Wilbanks, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you all some of the things that we've done this year to improve safety in our school system. Our operations department is great. I must say, in my own opinion, they came up with an idea that we could create in-house our own lockdown button so that an administrator can lock down a school with just the press of one button on the phone, or even a teacher. This video was created by Jason Gadsden and kind of gives you an idea of the lockdown button.
River City Schools Operation Department has designed a one-button lockdown system, which we'll demonstrate this afternoon.
If you want to share the thoughts behind creating this lockdown button.
Well, soon after Parkland, we had some community meetings and met at the high schools, both of them, and me and Mr. Hobson attended both of those meetings and took notes. And being part of the operations department and being support staff, our goal is to put tools in educators' hands to better educate kids and to keep them safe in this instance. We didn't come into the system looking to kind of revamp everything. We're extremely blessed at River City Schools. The only thing in our mission statement that's above educating children is keeping them safe. So our system has always had a huge emphasis and a drive towards that end. So our biggest goal was to come on top of that, and what could we do to tie all that together and maybe make it simpler and automate the entire process. And as we met with administrators, central office staff, and SROs, there were a couple of areas that we found that we could improve some things, and some of that was automating the lockdown process, which I think in the end our goal is to make it like the fire alarms. You pull a pull station, fire department's coming, everybody knows what to do and they evacuate the building, everybody's notified, there's no need for anything else to occur. And that's really what we're trying to get to with the lockdown button. It's been since the 50s, I think, since we lost a child in a school fire. And I hope one day we get to the point where it's been 40 or 50 years since we lost a child to gun violence inside of a building because of that.
So the implementation plan.
And design.
So yeah, right now we have this system is deployed at Hoover High School in Spain Park. We're currently working on the middle schools right now, and we should have all of the elementary schools and all of our facilities online by the start of the next school year. Another function of this provides a dashboard for the dispatch at the City of Hoover, where they can actually monitor our buildings, and they'll know exactly when a building goes into lockdown and can respond accordingly.
Another thing we focused on is our cameras, improving our cameras.
Yes, we currently have 1,544 security cameras in our district. We were in the process of upgrading those and the recording devices when Parkland happened. This just reiterated what we were doing and to continue on. We've added 94 outdoor cameras. That was one area that we recognized that we needed a little bit more coverage on. We were covered really well inside of our buildings. It was the outside of our buildings where we may be lacking. We've added 115 cameras in the last year. The majority of those are outdoor cameras. And we continually add cameras anytime we find a blind spot, or if an SRO or an administrator has an issue in a building where they can't see something they need to, we're just add a camera and take care of it.
Another thing that we did this year is partner with the police department, and we actually had an active shooter drill at Hoover High School in February. Only faculty participated, and we had over 200 employees to participate. We had 3 different scenarios that the faculty participated in, and Mr. Hobson was also a part that day.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for the support and the resources. That's been huge in what we've been able to do as far as moving forward without the funding and the support from you guys.
Well, I want to say thank you too. This was a program you guys, Tracy, your staff, we could have sought outside vendors to do this. And again, y'all stepped up this, first of all, it's a first-rate program, but besides that, we saved thousands of dollars by not contracting this out.
Thank you guys.
Well, it was definitely a group effort. The system that we have now in place is a group effort from everybody, from our SROs to administrators to central office.
A lot of input, a lot of input from SROs, our city administrators have been great. You guys have been great.
And the final thing we want to mention is our threat assessment. The district uses the Salem Kaiser threat assessment model. So we had a trainer come the beginning of this year and provide training to representatives of all of our schools. We're updating our forms. We actually are piloting the new forms at several schools this year, and next year we'll roll out the new forms. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share about some things that we're doing to address safety.
Thank you.
Operations has saved us tens of thousands of dollars because we had a number of vendors come in and share with us their latest, greatest way of ensuring protection of children, and then for our folks to design, we're very grateful. They did ask that we remember that during budget time, so we are appreciative. Thank you so much. Maryville, would you share with us, and for those of you who are waiting, we have 3 other quick items, and I do appreciate your waiting. But Mary, if you would share with us work experience verification for classified employees.
Certainly. This is brief, but I do want to begin by saying the strategic plan that we started included a whole revision of our salary schedule. And the board allowed our classified employees to receive step increases and a whole revamp of the salary schedule. With that, we wanted to go a step further for full transparency and equity to look at how the work experience is awarded. For certificated personnel, there's a state matrix, so it's standard. With classified, you might have individuals with different backgrounds, so we want to make sure that when they're hired, that we look at different scenarios. All the department heads met together. Of course, everyone had differing opinions, and so it's hard when you have some that want to give 1-for-1 years of experience, but we tried to look at what would be equitable and allow us to look at our budget. So credit can be awarded for work experience earned in Hoover City Schools or public education as a 1-for-1. Credit for experience that might be outside of Hoover City Schools that is substantially similar and require work responsibilities and duties may be granted up to a cap of 10 years. So this, again, when we went from steps of 10 to 12 to 27, we were trying to look at budget issues, we were looking at being fair. We looked at several districts across the state, some leave it very vague, so that people might be placed in areas, but we wanted it to be very standard, and we think that this will be equitable. The other big challenge was our operations department, because you have different levels with journeyman, apprentice, and so forth. And so Mr. Hobson worked with HR, and we came up with a standard that would also allow any of those support personnel to be treated more fairly.
Appreciate the work of HR on this, and it's really important to the district that we're treating people fairly and equitably based on their work experience. So thank you for your work. Update on our diversity committee's work, Dr. Lamar.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take this time to formally discuss or update you on 4 initiatives that we are currently working on with the Diversity Committee and also the Department of Equity and Education Initiatives. I also want to make sure this is an opportunity for you to ask questions or even to share some concerns as well. The first initiative is the focus groups. And the purpose of the focus group is to make sure that we get the perspectives of our students and also learn more about their experiences as well. So the next question comes up pretty much is, well, how do you plan to set up those focus groups? We have our diversity committee that will lead those and moderate those committees. There will be a total of 6 focus groups, and we have 6 moderators also. And those moderators will be formally trained next Tuesday, and that training will be done through Stanford University. And so with those, we will have 3 focus groups that consist of juniors and seniors at Hoover High School, and also 3 focus groups at Spain Park as well. The juniors and seniors, how we're selecting those students, it's pretty much we've allowed the school counselors to take an active role in selecting students. And also when we went over to the high schools, we also had opportunities to talk with students as well that shared interest with them. After we're done with all of the focus groups, what we plan to do at that time is to take all the findings and also the data and allow that information to lead professional development and also the initiatives that we need to implement for the upcoming school year. The next set of focus groups would be pretty much our parent focus groups. And I've had a lot of interest in parents. I've had multiple calls from parents that are interested in the parent focus group. But that process would take place later after we are done with the student information. And then we want to make sure we get the Hoover City Schools teachers and everyone involved in that focus group as well. The next initiative is the diversity professional development. Next week I will be at operations working with bus drivers and also Mr. Hopkins as well to provide some professional development for them. Also planning to do some professional development for school administrators. And when I say school administrators, I'm also talking about central office staff as well. That would take place June. That date is already in the works at this time now. And then we're also planning to train, not planning to, we are training all teachers, all personnel as well to make sure we start the year off with everyone having that opportunity to have that training for the school system. The third initiative is the parent committee. We have a parent committee also. The purpose of the parent committee is for me to say, here's what we're doing in Hoover. I want to also get feedback from parents, and we want to also talk about solutions. So again, I want to repeat that. The first part of that is to talk about what we are actually doing in the district, for me to get feedback from parents and for us together and collaborate to work on solutions. So that's the purpose of the parent committee. And just some other data points that will impact how we move forward. I plan on working with the curriculum department. That'll be Dr. Jeter, Dr. Smith, and others, Ms. Clara Jones-Moore, and everyone in that department. So then we looking at our academic data and tracking that information, what can we do to best serve students academically once we're done with the standardized testing process and we get to analyze and interpret that data as well. And then lastly, the positive behavior intervention supports, what you all saw with Berry Middle School up here, the award they won here, is to make sure that we are currently looking at our discipline data and making sure that we are being very intentional with the discipline, how we approach discipline, how we are interacting with the discipline, and also providing professional developments there for teachers as well. And I've been working closely with Dr. Simmons with this as well. So those are 4 of the many initiatives that we are currently doing. And so if you have any questions, I'm willing to take those. If not, I'll have a seat. All right, thank you.
Thank you for the job.
Yes, I appreciate very much Dr.
Wait,
Lamar
wait a minute.
as our Director of
Oh, let
Equity
me
and
see that.
Educational Initiatives. So, Dr. Lamar, thank you so much for your work and for your leadership. And then lastly, under other, Ms. Pate, would you share with us the first ever career Dr. Pate? I'm so sorry, Dr. Pate. Would you share with us about our career fair? My apologies. That's a recent recognition for you, and I missed it.
No problem. So we have attended 11 in-state career fairs. Am I doing that? Okay. We have attended 11 in-state career fairs at universities and 2 out-of-state career fairs with candidates who were focused on several school districts. And so we thought it was important for us to have a career fair where participants would come and their focus for Hoover City Schools. So our first career fair is this Friday, April the 12th. We have 2 sessions so we can accommodate the schedules of all our candidates who are coming, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We'll have representatives from each school. We'll also have Hoover City Schools representatives from operations, transportation, and our child nutrition program. Oh, and the big point is yesterday I checked our registration and we had 82 participants. And I looked right before we came to this meeting and we have 102 people registered to come to this event. We're really excited.
Very good. I think what's so good about that is these are individuals who are obviously interested in us because they're coming to us versus us going out to other people's career fairs. So that's awesome. I also want to remind you, board members, gratitude to Senator Jabbo Wagner, who's going to carry Senate Bill 176 on behalf of our board. I've shared that bill with you that is specific to our taxpayers having an opportunity for a referendum later, specific to the 2.4 mills that would carry us to the lid. So I share with you that bill that will actually go to committee tomorrow at 1:30, and I plan to be in Montgomery in the room in the event there are any questions or conversations that I can be a part of. So just share that with you also. And then just to let you know, we are tracking and looking at all that legislative activity that might be impacting us. We won't get into all the bills, but just know that we're looking and certainly inserting our thoughts and opinions where appropriate as it impacts our children in Hoover. I know that at ASB and many of you are going to Montgomery, have been in Montgomery, as I am with School Superintendent Association. I believe Ms. Madonna, there are some conversations we need to have surrounding CSFO search, and I'd like to defer to you.
Could I say one thing? On the legislature, a lot of you have heard about the Common Core, Senator Marsh's bill, S119, where he's trying to repeal all of Common Core. Alabama adopted a set of standards many years ago, 2013. We have our own standards. Common Core is just an umbrella. Alabama adopted their own standards for Common Core, and it just allows our students, if they leave this state, the 2 + 2 is equal in Alabama like it is in another state. So please, this is not a federal mandated program. So we're hoping that House of Representatives, Representative Terry Collins from Decatur, it's her committee. It hasn't been a committee time assigned. It has to go to committee and come out of committee to get to the floor. We don't know if it will get there. So if you want to email us with more questions, our opinion is we hope S119 fails. It's in the hands of the House of Representatives right now, in the chair of the committee. Sorry.
Sure. No, just a quick update on our CSFO search. We've been working with AASB, and we actually contracted with them to help with our CSFO search. They had, the job was posted and closed yesterday was the deadline for the job posting. They are meeting actually, I believe she said tomorrow, to begin reviewing applicants. So we should get a packet at the end of the week of applicants. We'll get from 3 to 5 finalists is what it is. No more than 5, at least 3, basically, is the way she said to me. She has sent us some materials, which I know were put into our assembly folder. It's some frequently asked questions, scoring sheet, just some materials for us to review. She's also going to be sending us a question bank of typical questions that are asked at this time. She offered to come and work with us. I said we didn't really need that, another meeting. And so if we have questions for her, she's very much available. But we can go through that question bank, pick questions, and then I'm gonna ask everybody when that comes to kind of go through and rank their questions, and then send that to Amber at AASB, and she's going to collate that for us and give us the idea of the most frequent, the highest ranked questions that we might want to ask, and actually provide those to the applicants prior to them coming for their interviews. Interviews are going to be scheduled for next week, which was the agreed upon time range which we gave people. So Peggy, I'll be working with her to get those set up once the applicants are known, to get those set up for sometime next week. Can't give you much more than that in terms of when that'll happen. So that's where we sit right now. Any questions?
I may be
concerns?
repeating what you said. These are public interviews. Once, did you say on this?
I didn't, no.
Public interviews, so once the selection is given to us from AASB, at that point it becomes public information. So the communication will be in public for you to hear. I think this is the 4th or 5th interview between superintendents and CSFOs I've been through. It's very transparent. We don't try to stump the interviewees. We think it should be meaningful questions to them. We listen to the public. This position is extremely, extremely important. It's a $190 million budget, plus or minus, that we have here, and it's all taxpayer money. It's got to go for our children and our employees. So this is an important position. It's one of 2 that the board actually hires directly: the chief school financial officer and the superintendent. We do hire the attorney, but these are 2 by state code that says we are responsible for those 2 positions. So this is extremely important. I hope you'll all be hearing these numbers when they come about.
Lastly, board members, our next board meeting is on May the 14th, and we are likely to ask you for a special call board meeting to finalize employment prior to the end of the year, as we typically do in May. And so, with that said, Mr. Kelly, I turn back over to you for.
Back to the comments. Please limit this to the project that Mr. Rice and Mr. Westhoven presented to us tonight. If you feel the person in front of you or others has already said that or pointed out that, please let's defer to the comments they made ahead of that. You're addressing the board at this point. We're easy to talk to. We're not addressing the city. Ask us what you want. We pretty much know what you've been presented tonight and nothing more. We have been briefed by the mayor. Yeah, I'll read this. I have it here also. But ask you please provide your name and address, the topic that you speak. We know it's going to be the presentation from the city. If you represent an organization, neighborhood, please let us know that. We've already said it shouldn't come into play. The student discipline, good name and character should be discussed. 3 minutes is the time we have. Yes, sir.
How everybody doing tonight? Mr. Williams, my principal is in the building. One of my principals. I got 3 things.
Could I have your name?
Mr. Williams.
Okay.
First thing I want to know, what happened to the employee from last fall that made the derogatory racial statement at the football game? That's the first thing I want to know.
Okay, we cannot address this from the board.
Second thing, I want to know what happened to the students that made that video from Hoover High Spain Park.
We cannot address discipline issues at this point.
Thirdly, I reviewed the disciplinary report on ORC data, and I've seen that there are an enormous amount of disposition with the differences in the percentages on the students that was placed in ISS and the ones that were being referred to out of school suspensions, those statistics are very disproportionate. Are you familiar with what report I'm talking about?
I am, but these are comments from you, not interaction with the board.
I'm talking to the board. I want to know what happened to the employee that made the racist remarks at the football game because it got swept under the rug. We haven't heard anything else about it. I want to know what happened to the students that made that video that we haven't heard anything else about. I came to the board meeting last month when it was on I thought it was slated for Monday, but it got changed to a Tuesday or something. Nobody was here. So I want to know what happened and what is going to happen. I see you got a diversity staff or something that's going on now. I'm very open to work on that staff and to be a part of that, first off. Second off, let's go back to February. Then none of the Hoover City schools teach nothing about Black history at all. I went to my elementary school and they were teaching the Civil War. That's very disrespectful. So coming forward to the next school year, I need y'all to make sure that when it comes around February that you emphasize the Black history and the contributions that we have made throughout this whole country. You understand that? Do you understand that? Don't we all understand it? Because no school systems taught any Black history at all, but they chose to teach the Civil War. Do you understand that? Do you understand? Do you understand the problem that I have with it?
As I explained, we're listening to your comments. This is not a two-way interaction. It won't be for anyone else.
That is all I have.
Thank you. Someone else?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the topic at hand. My name is Mark Benotti. I'm representing the Willow Trace subdivision. I come here with a lot of the residents. There's Cahaba Heights and Park Trace as well. All I want to say is we're not here to stop the issues of getting safety and improving the egress of traffic and flow out of Stadium Trace Parkway. But I think what we heard from the presentation, and I think what we saw, was there was not a traffic study done that needs to happen. We need to find out what's causing the congestion on Stadium Trace Parkway, because that was not accomplished. We know that, and I tell you what, I've been involved in a lot of traffic studies. You can sit there and do it yourself. You can drive through it. You can pay someone to do it, or you can look at your addresses and bus routes and determine it yourself. But the majority of that traffic is heading towards 459 and up the hill, which is causing the congestion off of Stadium Trace Parkway. I implore you, and I appreciate you bringing that up, that there's a traffic study done. Secondly, the safety of the students on Buccaneer Drive. It wasn't addressed, but there is significant issues that's going to happen by busing that traffic. I had 4 kids go through the high school, all played sports. You know what's on that high school road. You know what's on Buccaneer Drive. You know how that is used as far as transporting kids back and forth across it. You also know all the safety issues when you start that road is not capable of handling 2-lane bus traffic or highway traffic with vehicles, young student drivers, trucks, etc. Then talking about routing that into our neighborhoods, that same issues apply to our neighborhood, Willow Trace, the Cahaba, and Park Trace. I mean, our roads aren't built to handle 3,000 to 4,000 or more, especially on big events, out-of-town visitors, cut-throughs, and what have you. But regardless of what they're doing, 2,000 is too many, 1,000 is too many additional traffic through our roadway systems. So we do not have sidewalks all the way through. We do not have wide enough roads to support that. We have landscaper trucks. We have construction vehicles. We have people walking to school every day, the kids. We have a pool in front of the neighborhood. The kids walk in front of that all day long, across those paths. And the amount of information that was provided for the safety of our kids, our children, our families has not been addressed. And Mr. Kelly, your comment on eminent domain, yes, it is. We do know, and you know, that that's owned by the Trace Crossing Homeowners Association, and it does require U.S. Steel and others to get involved, including us, and we're prepared to fight the battle as necessary to prohibit anybody from taking our property, whether it's the trail or whether it's the property that leads onto our right of way. So, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Amen.
Good evening, my name is Heather Jameson and I reside in Willow Trace and I'm here about the road issue. I want to say that I understand that this is conceptual and I understand that this is in the very early stages. However, this is a concept that should not have any more time, effort, or money spent on. I live in Willow Trace with my husband. I've lived there since October of 2014. Between us, we have 6 children, aged 18 and 16, who are not with us most of the time. I have an 8-year-old and I have 10-year-old triplets. They are now reaching the age where they can go do things in the neighborhood. As soon as my son Henry finishes homework, he says, "Mama, can I go play in the cul-de-sac?" That is the cul-de-sac where the road wants to be put in alternative 1. I'm 5 houses down. We spend so much time on the walking trails. We walk our dogs there. My children ride their bikes on the trails. We run. I have 2 children who have started running. I'm an avid runner, and I'm able to run with them and teach them the value of exercise. The reason that I live in Willow Trace is because it's a quiet and serene community. I'm on a cul-de-sac, and we have access to those very walking trails that are there. Putting 3,000 cars of high school traffic on that road will create an unsafe condition for me and my children. I will not be able to allow my children to play in the yard and do all the things that is the reason I moved to that neighborhood, so that they could do that. When you come into Willow Trace off of 150, you travel a half a mile through a neighborhood, 2-lane neighborhood. You turn left, it's a quarter of a mile. That is 0.75 miles where there will be an additional 3,050 cars per day. If you do the math and you take an average car is 15 feet long and you put 10 feet of space between each of the cars, the morning traffic of 1,525 cars is more than 7 miles long. Using those assumptions, that is 7 miles of cars in the morning and in the afternoon driving down 3/4 of a mile down my street. Alternative 3 takes away the walking trails. Hoover uses those, Hoover High School uses those for its running clubs. I know that I'm probably going long, but I ask you to please come drive these routes. It's like they said, it's lines on a map. That doesn't tell you what it is. It doesn't tell you what the neighborhoods look like. It doesn't tell you what it will do to all of us. And I know it's conceptual, but it should stop now. Thank you.
My name is Lynette Subchak. I live in Willow Trace Development. I moved here 14 years ago. We looked at every development in every community around the city of Birmingham, not knowing anything about Birmingham or Alabama. Once we got to Willow Trace, we stopped. That was where we wanted to live. We picked it because it was one way out and one way in. Our children and our dogs would be safe. We know our neighbors. We stopped when we were looking at houses, stopped, and people on the street came up to us and said, "Are you looking at this house?" And we became immediate friends. That's the kind of neighborhood we live in. I walk my dogs on the trail every single morning. I see some of my walking partners are here. I walk every night. At night, I share the trails with the cross-country kids. They stop and pet my dogs. This is our way of life. It's our culture. And I would just be devastated if we didn't have that culture and that community. We share that community with a lot of the school. The people drawing the plans that are looking from up in the sky and looking down and saying, "We'll just put a road here, we'll put a road here, we'll put a road here." That's not life. That's not what we have. The one thing that's really important that I have not heard one person address is if they open Buccaneer Drive and they open that drive to the school and they bring it through our neighborhood or any other neighborhood, the problem lives over on Stadium Trace. That's where the extra developments are. That's where all the people are coming from. That's where the traffic jams are. What do you think all those people are going to do? They are going to cut right through the high school and cut right through Willow Trace to get out to 150 to get to the mall quicker. Nobody has addressed that. That's a whole lot more than 3,000 cars. That's all I have.
My name is David Lawson. I also live in Willow Trace. It seems like there's a lot of Willow Trace folks here tonight, but I think I speak on behalf of all the neighborhoods, as none of us want this to happen. But what I want you to think about is from the school board's perspective, because what I read in the Hoover Sun article was that the school board owns that road, Buccaneer Drive, going around there. And if the city decides that it wants to pursue this option, it's got to have your cooperation one way or another. I mean, Buccaneer Drive's got to become, I guess, a thoroughfare connecting over to Stadium Trace and beyond. And I think the way, if the city decides that it wants to push this further, the way the city is going to sell it to the school board is it's a safety issue. You know, we just saw a presentation about the lockdown button. They're going to say, if something happens at Hoover High School, one of the other schools there, the Met, the ball fields out there, with all that traffic on Stadium Trace Parkway, police will not be able to quickly and adequately respond to it. You know, fair enough. Okay, where are all the police stations located? As far as I know, there are none that are west of Highway 31. You've got one, I think, at City Hall, one at the Safety Center, whatever it is down there, and then another one behind the shopping center on 31. So there's quite a bit of a distance between there and the schools and the Met and the ball fields. So if it's being sold to the board as a safety issue, we got to have this extra road so the police can get there quickly. You don't need to build roads. Nobody wants these roads. What you do is you put new police assets out there. That parking lot between the Met and the soccer fields is huge. You could take one of those corners there, put a brand new police station, a brand new fire and rescue center. I mean, and I'm not talking like a little substation. I'm talking something significant, nice building like this, that is right there. Something happens, the police are right there. They are right there at that school immediately. That's what I have to say.
Hi, my name is Bill Bradley. I live in Park Trace, and there's so many problems with this whole plan, I don't even know where to start. I've been involved with these meetings since they started the developments a couple of years ago, and the city made a lot of promises about the roads and such. And I can't understand why they would continue to build these shopping centers and homes without having the roads there.
Amen.
The situation, I have a brand new car. I was just sideswiped a few weeks ago, and I've seen so many near accidents. They've gone in, they tore up those roads around the Hoover High School and in our communities, and they're not doing a thing to fix it. It's been months. There's been cones and no markings on the roads, and nothing's happening. So I have a lot of mistrust with the city at this point. The numbers, I just urge the school board to really be careful with these numbers that they're giving you. They're giving you 3,000, 2,000, 1,000. They have just scratched the surface of building these new homes, and those numbers are going to, whatever study they do, you better multiply it by 3 or 4, because there's going to be a lot more traffic and a lot more danger for those students, just as I got. Excuse me. The looking at each one of those plans, it's just besides the danger to the students in the school, I drove through each one of those routes last night looking at it before I came here today, and it's just no way none of those plans are viable. And to have all that traffic on the school property is just, you guys are just asking for trouble if you agree to that. The city needs to go back to the drawing board. They're spending all this money on the Met area. They need to figure out a way to go down there to the Met. I don't care how much money it costs. And they should have already sat down and negotiated with all these builders before they agreed to let them build these homes. You're going to have to put this much money into building these roads for this community. Not put it on to us now that we're having to deal with it. It's not too late. They're still trying to sell houses. The city needs to go back to the builders and say, you got to do something here. Otherwise, those homes that they're selling, I think we need to go down there where they're selling those homes with signs and say, you're gonna pay $800,000 for a house, guess what it's gonna be worth, because you can't get in and out of it.
Yep.
You know, something's gotta be done. But, if you look, like I said, some of these plans, I urge everyone to walk down those trails. There's the main area where they're talking about driving close to the high school there. It's a very unique spot. And when you walk through there in the summertime, the temperature drops 10 degrees. There's a gully on each side, water flowing, ferns growing on the side. There's no way you can put 2 lanes of traffic even through there. And a sidewalk, what are you gonna do, have it elevated above the road? There's just no way. You guys, I urge you to go in and look at those routes and don't trust those numbers. And the city needs to go back to the builder and demand that they start putting the money in. I don't care if it costs $34 million to build a bridge from the Med to 150. That's what they're gonna have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
The other thing I urge the city to do too is they need to get building the exit off 459 for the people that live South Shades Crest, because that's part of our traffic problem. People going through our community. They've been talking about it for 10 years, let's get started.
Hi there, I'm Scott Willenbrock. Like most of these folks, I live in Willow Trace as well. And I have a daughter at Hoover High School, 2 boys at Bumpus. I also coach the Hoover High School mountain bike team. And Dr. Laswati, her son rides on it. And a lot of the times we'll ride on the golf cart path and through those areas where they're talking about building these roads. And I guess the question I'd have for the Board of Education is, did you guys ask the city to come solve a traffic problem that you have at the Hoover High School?
Again, this is one of the.
I would guess the answer is probably no. You're probably content with what you have on campus there. And I would say the plans that are being proposed here, the city's trying to make up for years of not being forward-thinking enough on the traffic issues that we're having. And now they're coming to you to help solve those problems. And unfortunately, the solutions that they proposed only generates more traffic for the school campus. And all of those new neighborhoods, again, those are the area, and the Finley Center, all that traffic is what's going to be flowing through the Hoover campus. And I would say that asking the Board of Education to provide that land to solve this solution is very short-sighted and is going to impact many people in many neighborhoods negatively. You've got other areas of this area, Shades Crest, all these areas that need improvement for traffic flow, where if they do that, the traffic will flow out of Stadium Trace, out of the school a lot better, even at the school. You know, leaving there in carpool in the morning, you can't see around the bush because in the curve, everybody stops. If you do traffic flow improvements, everything will improve, and you don't have to go to these extreme measures. So don't let the city use your land to fix things that they should have fixed long ago. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Grondin. I'm a resident of Willow Trace. I'm speaking for myself. I would like to thank the city for coming and discussing this. However, I think they say where it's just conceptual. I think they've missed a step. They've started with solutions to, we need a connector between Trace crossings, the general Trace crossings, not Willow Trace, and Highway 150 and they said, oh, we're being open, we're discussing this. They didn't discuss, let's identify the problem first. And so you've got a variety of problems that they're trying to solve. They're selling it one way as a safety issue, and other people that they're selling it as a traffic issue. We really need to spend more time on what the problem is before you're asked to solve their problem, which wasn't your problem, and will now become my problem, even though I bought a house in a secluded neighborhood on purpose so that I wouldn't be on Shades Crest Road. Or you'll note many new subdivisions, newer Trace Crossings is included, have feeder roads nobody's driveway opens onto. That's an old design. You know, River Chase Parkway is that way, but I think you'll see the houses are spaced further apart than newer developments. So putting a main artery, as Alan Rice referred to it last night, through a subdivision with 20-mile-an-hour roads, the stop sign at the top of the hill is not a good idea. We needed to have more consultation on finding what the problem is, so that, I mean, in the 2 days since this has blown up, we've heard lots of good solutions for safety that haven't even been considered. It's, oh no, we just need a connector that'll be route traffic through the school system to alleviate underbuilt roads. Thank you very much.
Evening, my name is Phil Wisnett. I live in the Cahaba River State community, and I'm gonna go reiterate what my neighbors at Willow Trace said. I agree with everything they said. Our neighborhood, the cross-country team runs through it all the time. I'm on a help Scott with the mountain bike team. We ride through all these areas that have been presented on the mountain bike with the team and the kids. The thing that I want you to just consider is your ring and the safety of all the kids at the Hoover High School. Adding 3,000 or 4,000 extra cars into that area a day would be a safety factor to me for all the kids. I have 2 kids that went through Hoover. I don't have any there now, but they went through and graduated. If they were there, I'd be concerned about their safety with adding through traffic that doesn't need to be on your ring, Buccaneer Drive, and then hitting Willow Trace neighborhood or Cahaba River Estates neighborhood. So that's my concern. Thank you.
I'm Ron Saffington. We live in Trace Crossings, Willow Trace. I think one thing that has got me concerned, I guess you all have weeds in your yard right now. And all you have to do is give them a little water and you get them fertilized. And then the first thing you know, you got to kill them. And they're very difficult to kill. We've got something here that's coming up, and it's a weed seed. And I don't know who started this, but the first thing I'd like to see them do is go ahead and repair what they've got wrong right now. The Stadium Trace coming into 150, it used to be 2 lanes. Okay, and all of a sudden, hey, people want to turn to the right. So you know what they did? They narrowed one little section so people could go to the right. So now all the 2 lanes come down here, and the guys that want to go in here have been standing in the line to get in this lane. Why didn't they make it a lane? The problem is they've taken the easiest fix. And you guys, if you're even accepting this, you're wrong. You're wrong to take the people that have supported you, that have been kids, and all the grandkids have gone through that school, and we're all proud of it. They're all making good decisions. All your decisions that you showed today are, hey, we're making decisions. We're going to do it right. And now you've said to those guys, we'll try it. No, it's not the thing to try it. You're taking an area, you're going to make everybody in here penalized because you're even listening to it. And, do any of you live in Trace Crossing or Willow Trace? You're listening to you. Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for listening. Because you need to do this. If you look at the traffic, along Willow Trace, along the Stadium Trace, we've got all beautiful trees. I like trees. But you know what? I just as soon cut those trees down and make another lane out of there. Our facilities up. You need to think about it a second time. Thank you.
My name's Alan Terry. I also live on Stadium Trace, on Willow Trace. Specifically, Trace Crossing Trail, which is the bottom part of the picture, right where it leads down to the cul-de-sac. Every day, there are your students walking to school, riding in golf carts to school, riding them home. I've seen them on bicycles or other wheeled vehicles going down there. Every day you will see people like you see here tonight. You will see elderly people, disabled people, people walking their dogs. You'll see people with their children walking those streets. It's a typical residential street. It's narrow. People park along it in some places. If anybody has a party or activity of any sort, cars line up along that street. We have the garbage trucks. We've got the mail people. We've got heating and air conditioning people, landscapers, all parking on the street. There's not going to be room for two cars to pass. So you're looking at an intolerable situation, to say nothing of the noise that's generated. If you start bringing school buses through there, it will be intolerable to us. A lot of our bedrooms are on the front of the house facing that street. Mine certainly is. And I think you can see the nature of the people. That subdivision was built in the 1990s. There are quite a few people here who were original to that development. They're getting up in age. Now you also have the people that are moving in and buying the houses for their children because you've got a great school system and they want to be close to it. They want their kids to be able to go to Hoover High. Yes, it's Mayberry to say so in the city. I love Mayberry. But what we want to do is we want to cooperate with you. We appreciate the fact that you're allowing us to have this discussion. We want to support the Hoover school system. We appreciate your understanding of our situation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Terry Rowlett, and I also live in Willow Trace. And I know I've been involved with some of the school board with when we had the problems with the rezoning. That's what I was looking for, that word. And so we had discussions too that there was a possibility of a third high school to be developed. And I don't know where those plans are with the school system and with the city growing that way, but I thought that there was some mentioning of a new school being put out that way to help the people that we have coming from Shades Crest and Preserve Parkway and all the situation back out there. So I don't know if that's on your agenda or if you're even responsible for that, if the city's responsible for the new school, high school come in.
The city is.
The city is, okay. Well, that is something that I think that they need to consider because a lot of the traffic, like you said, comes down through Rocks Gap Parkway, from Shades Crest, and in the morning from 150 from Lake Cyrus and those school systems over there. So I don't know if the city has talked or thought about that traffic problem leading to our traffic problem. I have 4 kids in the school right now. I have 1 in high school, and 1 is going to be going to Bumpus next year, and I'll have 2 in elementary school. So I know the traffic. I sit in the carpools, and I've seen, I don't know how, there's like 50 buses that leave the high school at 3:25, 3:30, they leave the high school. There's 50 of them. And they're all lined up from the high school all the way to the corners, to the Sig and Trace. And if you want to you can't merge over into that lane. So that's why I was like, and then I was talking about the weeds. 2 lanes, turn. We only have 1 lane to make a right turn out of the school. Why can't we, are they going to address that, widen that road there to where we have the 2 lanes that can turn? And that way it would solve traffic coming out of high school. Also, what people were saying, that's going to become a major thoroughfare through Buccaneer to Learning Lane to Rocks Gap to Shades Crest. That's going to be you're going to have to widen Rocks Gap too because there's traffic happening there. People can't get out of Great Crest. or not Lake Crest, yeah, no, the other ones.
Chestnut Bridge.
Chestnut Bridge.
No, the other one on the right
Lake
side.
Trace.
With the
Scout Creek.
Scout Creek.
There you go.
The lady was complaining today, she can't make a left turn out of there. So there's no, it's just bad all around, but that's just some of the things that I've thought about. But really, through my neighborhood, Willow Trace, I will lay on the road. I will not let those people come through my neighborhood. I will not do it. That to me is a sin, to do that to our neighborhood. You're gonna destroy property value, and there's a pool right there, right at the entranceway. We're gonna have to have all that lane moved out, because the traffic lights are not there. They're gonna have to widen that area, and that's gonna take away from my children, the same thing, they play in the cul-de-sac. And they wanna ride their bikes to their friend's house, and I would not be able to let them cross it. I don't really like them crossing the street now, because cars come flying down that road. So, I'm sorry, they're all over the place.
Hello, my name is Heidi Hyde, and I'm not a public speaker. I don't like being up here. But I live in Cahaba River Estates, and there are not many of us. So I'm not an eloquent speaker, and I'm also an emotional speaker, so if I come to tears. But we lived in this neighborhood for 10 years because I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but it's one of a kind. I mean, I think it's one of a kind in this whole Birmingham area. You top the hill between CarMax and Walmart, and you're transported into this historic neighborhood. We don't even have a full 2-lane road. It's just 1.5. It meanders around in the woods. The trees are not even to code with the power lines. The trees are touching the power lines. It's just beautiful. You ride under a canopy of trees. We have a creek that runs, I'm sorry, obviously talk with my hands. We have a beautiful creek that would be destroyed because both plans go down the creek. And I do help with the mountain bike team, so I get around as far as seeing what goes on behind the med and so forth. And what happens to these beautiful creeks that Hoover has, and I'm a little bit of a tree hugger, is that when they need to build a road up, they put a giant culvert, a culvert that I could ride my motorcycle, I do ride motorcycles, but I'm talking about my bicycle. I can ride my bicycle through, and it's, all the trees are gone, the gravel is poured, and it looks like a giant dam. So for the road to come through our neighborhood, it would be like a bomb had gone off. They'll have to straighten. I mean, we literally have turns where you almost see your the tail end of your car when you turn around them. The curves would have to be straightened out. Everything would have to be brought to code. We'd probably end up with sidewalks, which we don't really want. And our power lines would have to be cleared. And I guess the reason why I decided to come say something is we're such a small party. We don't have many residents, and I don't want y'all going through Willow Trace either. It's a beautiful neighborhood. It needs to be preserved. This traffic does not need to come through anybody's neighborhood. They're a beautiful neighborhood for a different reason than we are a beautiful neighborhood. We probably enjoy each other's neighborhoods as far as walking. And I feel like where this traffic is coming from is, and I appreciate you guys, you have to, it's your job and you've got to do your job. But I feel like the traffic's coming from these new neighborhoods at the end of Stadium Trace past the Met, which I want to say I appreciate because they are putting mountain bike trails in. So thank you, Jesus. I'm going to enjoy those. So I don't want to impose any hardship on them, but the deal is that last neighborhood is going to be a gated community. And I rode my bicycle out there yesterday. They have a gate on the back of that neighborhood. That road goes all the way to 52, but they're going to have a gate on it, so they will not allow traffic. So anybody that doesn't need to come down Stadium Trace to go to a school or work, they cannot get out to 52 to get to 459. So we're driving traffic down Stadium Trace now. So I guess and I know you're not answering questions, but that's my question. Why do you not let traffic flow to where it can naturally go? And if we're spending money, let's don't put a Band-Aid on it temporarily with these 4 things. I'm going to count it as well. Let's take this money and put it towards a real solution. We need another interstate exchange.
Hi, I'm Donna Allen, and I also live in Cahaba River Estates. I only got up because nobody was getting up from Cahaba River Estates, and for a few of us here. And I'm not going to reiterate, I agree. They don't need to go through any of these neighborhoods. Willow Trace has been there forever, and people bought there for a reason. Cahaba River Estates predates Hoover. Cahaba River Estates was there when 150 was a dirt road, and I moved there when it was still 2 lanes. It has had a lot of changes over the last few years. But she's right. We don't even have 2 lanes. You have to kind of stop and let people by. And if it's a trash truck, you just have to wait. And I'm talking about all this because when my children all went to Hoover High, they walked to school. We don't have a bus. There is no bus that comes to where I live in the very end. I'm going to be severely impacted. I'm in the cul-de-sac. I'm at the end of it. My kids couldn't get to a bus because as far as it can get was up there at the split. And so my children walked that creek over through the power line road where they're talking about this going over. That's how they got to school. And then later, my youngest would take his bicycle, would ride over to Willow Trace, by the way, park his bike at a friend's house, and catch a bus or a ride from over there. Because frankly, there was just no option. And some of the things that haven't been mentioned, I know this has nothing to do with you, I'm going to say it out loud. We have, like you said, it's a unique neighborhood. We have a bobcat, we have deer, we have hawk, we have tons of wildlife out there that will be severely impacted if you're sending thousands of cars to our neighborhood. And there is no way that they won't be. I walk a lot and I get out with a trash bag and routinely pick up trash. I can't imagine what it's going to be like for our neighborhood and your neighborhood with people coming through there who do not live there, who do not care what this is going to look like. Just going around Buccaneer Drive, they don't care if they're packing their Coke bottle home or their cigarettes or their beer bottles, unfortunately. They don't care. And yeah, and we have, I noticed with Hoover Sun, I'll make this really quick. I noticed in the Hoover Sun, again, this is not about you, but I want you to think about it. This is a month or so ago, and nobody's mentioned it. Some of this, I know the city's talking about was old, and from an old thing, things that were put in place a long time ago that haven't been addressed. But I saw in the Hoover Sun that somebody has commissioned a feasibility study for a hotel out by the Met. And that was in the newspaper. I didn't make that up. And so we have a problem, and it's just adding to it, and the building continues, and it continues, and it continues. And this should not impact people who have lived in these neighborhoods. I've lived there for 20 years, and people have lived there, their whole lives. And this should just not happen. This is wrong.
My name's Bobby Carmichael. I live in Cahaba River Estates, and I'll be quick because I know you've heard everything about what's happening in our communities, and it's impacting both these communities severely and damaging them and impacting our home values also. But the Serenity, and if you haven't been to Cahaba River Estates, I do want to invite you to ride through there. It's a beautiful place, and it's quiet. We have approximately 50 homes in this area. It's one way in, one way out. We love it that way. We love everything about it. We don't want it to touched by the city. We don't want to do anything to our community. But why I'm here and what I'm talking about is the school system. The school system is, if you don't think the school system is going to be impacted to the high school by traffic, you're going to be wrong. Because you've got Wilbur Lake, you've got both the elementary and the middle school, you got the high school, and you've got the Met, you've got the Family Center, and you've got all the commercial development on that road. And they're going to use that a lot to come through your Buccaneer Drive and to go out one of these alternate routes that they're going to propose. And it's going to be highly impacted, and the safety is just going to be astronomical. But the thing I want to mention to it, and not take any more time, is you people, the school board of Hoover, own that Buccaneer Drive. You own that land. You can stop this
in a
tonight.
heartbeat.
You can stop this tonight, or when you make a decision by saying, no, we don't want anybody to come into our development, our land, our Buccaneer Drive. We do not want any of these alternate routes into our Buccaneer Drive. If you say that, it's over.
That's wrong.
anything, but I am emotional already. I worked 38 years in education.
What's your name?
I'm sorry, I'm Zach Thomas, really Mary Ann Thomas, but I'm go by Zach. I live in Willow Trace. When we went looking for property and we bought a house, we picked Willow Trace because it had one entrance in, one entrance out. The other trace crossings we looked at and we knew all these little neighborhoods with all these major roads around them was going to be nothing but traffic. I do not know why the developer of Trace Crossings is not being required to provide land, to provide an exit the other direction, instead of going through my place. My kids went to Hoover High. My oldest was the first to spend the first 4 years of that school, and that is a very special place to me. To me, opening up this land is going to allow people to come by the school that may not need to be there. And all the cameras and all the push buttons, you know, when they're out to do something, they're going to go after you. Why are we going to expose our precious children at Hoover High and the other schools with another exit to get out of there if somebody wants to do harm to them? And that is my number one concern, because I love the idea that my kids went to Hoover High with one entrance in and one entrance out. But now the other thing is too, I had one who's got his car hit there, right in the parking lot. That one also totaled 2 of our Mercedes, as well as 3 other cars that belonged to other people in the process of totaling our cars. Then my other son has been hit 5 times because one doesn't drive defensively, the other one drives like everything's lovely. Thank the good Lord, he now has 2 children, is married, and hasn't had any more car accidents. But paying $3,000 for 3 years, $9,000 for car insurance, does kind of hurt the budget a little bit. But anyway, what I wanted to get at is we have got novice drivers around Hoover High School also. You're going to have all these kids driving in, and then you're going to have Joe Blow who's in a hurry, who's drinking their coffee, they have to, or they need to go to Starbucks, or they need to do this or that. Their mind isn't there. We've got kids that don't know what they're doing because they're just driving because they just got their driver's license, and they're going to be cutting through and coming through Willow Trace. I'm very upset. I am older. I'm very much a senior citizen, soon to be 70 years old. I bought my home for the fact that I was going to live there until I'm gone, and then someday my kids could sell it and hopefully make some money off of it. At the rate of putting this thoroughfare through it, my house is going to be probably worth half of the value. And I'm very upset. I have a very beautiful, beautiful home, and we picked that house out because it was a sealed community. Well, I beg you to please leave ours sealed, leave Cahaba Heights, Park Trace, and everybody else. Why do they want to destroy somebody's neighborhood so that somebody else's new neighborhood can get out of Trace Crossing? Yes. Those developers have to be accountable. Don't tell me they don't have any money. They can afford $50 million or $100 million and fix the problem. Why take it out on us? Sorry. Anyway, appreciate what you're doing as a school board. Both of my kids went to Bama, and they got a wonderful education at Hoover High. So, thank you.
Everybody's time. It looks like this is the last speaker, so please let us know who you are.
Stephen Sanders, Willow Trace Community. Thank you for saving the best for last tonight. Everybody was free to go home and said amen. Amen. All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. I have a wife, I have a 5-year-old son, and a brand new 6-month-old baby boy who is just handsome. The doctors say he derived all that from his father. We bought a golf cart about 3 weeks ago, and we moved from Gardendale to Hoover, and we look very much to raising our boys in the community and in the Hoover education system. Pastor a church off of 150 just across from the Bessemer line, and very much a community person. I've already been working our community. Rubbing elbows, shaking hands, kissing babies, hugging necks, typical neighborhood pastor thing to do. Some concerns that I have is I think we've pulled the cart before the horse. We have said, come in, neighborhood home developers, businesses, come all this one-way avenue that we have, one way out. And we haven't, we've ran to engineering and we've bypassed common sense. When you pull out of my neighborhood and you are at the intersection of 150 and Stadium Trace, turning left there, you're on an uphill climb. And those of you that have been there,
The green light does not stay green long enough because you're on an incline. It takes time for people to get off their phone and catch on to hit the gas and go to 459 turn. With that, we've also put a new light in turning there to the left. And I'm eager to see if that light is synced with the green light turning you in there. Because if you have green turning into a red light, you're just backing it up even more, which you already have leaving Stadium Trace trying to get to 459. The new light at the gas station, when one person in the morning wants to get their Mountain Dew and donut from the Circle K there, that red light turns right while you have everybody trying to leave there, and it bogs it down. So it all needs to be looked at a common sense perspective. And I know this is all conceptual, and without disrespect to the engineers, I think they've left common sense on the floor and just kept engineering on the table. And I'll encourage you and say this: thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for us to be able to come and voice our opinions to the board. And I will concur with the gentleman that was two ahead of me that you do own that property around the school. Don't let the tail wag the dog. Thank you.
Board members, in all due fairness to principals and to teachers who did a terrific job during the month of February focusing on Black History Month, I do want to say to you that speaker number one was absolutely in error to suggest to you that the school district did not do anything focused on Black history. And it doesn't matter how loudly or how abrasively you approach the board and tell them that that did not happen. I'm here to tell you that we did. So I think it's fair to make sure that that is stated and that that record is clear for you and for our community. So thank you for letting me add that.
I noticed Mr. Westhoven and Mr. Rice are still here, up to them to talk. We appreciate the crowd. We actually enjoy having you here. We want to hear from you. This got a little bit out of our normal business to allow the comments during the topic, which we thought was important. We appreciate hearing from you. It's very important for us to know. We all live here. All my kids went through the high school. I went down this bench here. The same thing. And yes, I have walked through the neighborhood. I have walked to 100th Street. We live here, so we feel it. Our next meeting is May 14th, I believe. We're adjourned.
Thank you.